This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I was asked to begin the Shiur just speaking a few minutes about Daf HaShavua. For the past year and a half, I've had the privilege I learned the Daf HaShavua, I give a little Shiur on it. We've been through so far 3 Masechtas. We've been through Be'er, Rosh Hashanah, and Tainus. So about a year and a half ago, I started in a new Kehillah. I was very hesitant to start, I'll tell you the truth. I had a very big Shiur workload. I was getting a lot of Shiurim. And I didn't think it was shaykh for me to prepare the blot and to give the Shiur every week. I didn't think I could fit into my schedule. But I figured, I felt I had to, but I couldn't do it. And I did it. And I don't know how, but b'siyata d'shmaya, we've already gone through 3 Masechtas, over 100 blot. We do a blot a week. The Shiur is a very simple Shiur. We learn the Gemara, straight, shakla v'tarya, no major chidushim. But I realized that I myself had much more time than I thought I did. I figured to learn a Masechta, they say big people have gone through Masechtas many, many times, dozens of times. I found that after I gave the Shiur at night, I give it twice a week, Monday night and Tuesday night, Amud. So I prepare the Shiur and I give the Shiur. It's not even every Tosfos, not every Rashi. The next morning after I give the Shiur, I could chazer the Amud in less than 5 minutes. I just taught it the night before. I could chazer Amud in less than 5 minutes. Then in the car, I drive to the Shiur. I put the Shiur on speed. So it's a 20-minute Shiur, but I could hear the whole Shiur in 10 minutes. And then Friday night, I could chazer the Amud, the whole blot. I could chazer the blot, in 8 minutes. So I didn't think I had time to do it even one time. And turns out, without changing anything in my life, I did the Masechta, each Masechta 5 times. Anybody could do it. It's not a big deal. People told me they're not big lamdanim, they're not big loimdim, they're not big tamei chachamim. You go to the Shiur, the next day or the next morning you could chazer the Amud very quickly. You listen to it again, you chazer it again with no time, with not a major time investment. If all you do is do an hour a week of going to a Shiur and then chazer quickly on your own, you could end up doing the Masechta a number of times, on top of whatever you're doing already. You do Daf Yomi, you don't do Daf Yomi, you learn Biyin, you don't learn Biyin. I always like, there's a Medrash in Parsha Mitzayra. The Medrash says that the way a Tippish looks at the Torah, is the Tippish says, who could learn Masechta Kelim? Masechta Kelim is 30 prakim. Who could learn Nezikin? Bava Kama, Bava Matzia, Bava Vatz is 30 prakim. That's how a Tippish looks at the Torah. You look at the shelf. On the shelf there are 1,000 Svarim. It's impossible to go through all the Svarim. So you say, forget it. The Lashon of the Medrash is, but the Chacham says, Harini shoyne shnei halachos hayoim, shnei halachos lamachar, ad shani shoyne es kol ha-Torah kula. That's Daf HaShavua. It's not Daf Yomi. Because it's saying eventually in the course of your life you learn the whole Torah. Daf Yomi you learn in 7 years. Here it's saying, in the course of your career you'll end up going through everything. So if you start Daf HaShavua, it's a school of Harichas Yamim. You'll live at least another 50 years until you go through the whole cycle. And Be'ezus Hashem, I think we're starting Megillah tomorrow night. Even if you're learning Menachas, anyone could do Megillah, And Be'ezus Hashem, it's an opportunity for all of us to mechazek our learning. Okay, tonight they brought me in from the 5 towns. So they thought, maybe we have some tremendous chidushim, all kinds of innovative ideas that you never heard before. I'm not here today to tell you anything new. Mamish dvarim pshutim ad ma'od. Not going to hear anything new tonight. Sorry to disappoint you if you came here to hear some innovative stuff. Next time, hopefully you'll invite me back again. Tonight, dvarim pshutim ad ma'od. I call this Shiur the 10 steps to success in learning Torah. Not that I know what success is, but to my humble mind, even though the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, "B'mem ches dvar ma'Torah niknas b'hem," so what right do we have to narrow it down to 10? But nevertheless, I heard from Victor Miller that we're entitled, if there's a certain area, a certain discipline, we're entitled lefi madrigasenu to break it down into ways to remember. So that's what tonight's Shiur is: 10 steps to success in learning. Okay, step number 1. I remember when I was a kid, I went over to Rabbi Miller's house. I said, we daven in benching. We say Harachamon v'Yizakenu Limois HaMashiach. We asked Ribbon Shalom for Olam Haba. Why do you have to daven for Olam Haba? Either do mitzvahs and earn it, or don't do mitzvahs and don't earn it. Why would you have to daven for it? It's not something you have to daven for. So remember he said, you want it? You have to daven for it. There's no such thing as anything in this world without tefillah. You can't get anything without tefillah. And even though you need tefillah for everything in this world, be it parnasa, be it hatzlacha b'chinuch habanim, whatever it is, whatever you might need, you need tefillah. There's a Manda Amar in Masechta Brachos on Daf Ches on the pasuk in Tehillim. Al zois yispalel kol chassid eilecha le'es mitzay. For this, every righteous person should daven. Al zois, for this. So Gemara identifies what's the zois. Rav Nasan Omer le'es mitzay zu Torah. That of everything in this world that exists, whatever there is in this world, what you need to daven for more than anything else is limud ha-Torah. Shenemar ki maitzai matzai chayim. Think about it. Why do you have to daven for Torah? To daven for Torah, you learn it, you'll get it. You don't learn it, you won't get it. Imagine a guy, he's learning mathematics. You say, Shoiter Shabbalam, you know why you're not understanding it? Because you forgot to daven. What does davening have to do? Either you're smart enough and you can comprehend, either you put in the effort. Why would davening help a person in their learning? And the answer is obvious, and this is something that we all know, but we all need to chazer over, that learning Torah is not like a regular intellectual discipline. It's lamala minateva, and therefore the ingredients needed to be koine Torah are lamala minateva. You need siyata d'shmaya. I mean, I look back at my own class. Who was the most successful in learning? It wasn't the smartest guys. It wasn't the people with the best heads. It wasn't those who did best in secular discipline. It's chachma lamala minateva. In fact, the Gemara legislates, and this is a very interesting thing. This might be a little bit new. The Mishnah in Brachos, Chav Ches Amud Beis, the Mishnah says, Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana haya mispalel b'chnisasai lebeis hamedrash. Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana would daven when he entered the Beis Medrash, u'b'tziasai tefillah katzara. When he left, he would also daven a short tefillah. Amru lai, they said to Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana, ma makom letefillah zu? Amar lohem b'chnisasi ani mispalel shelo yerad dvar takal yadi. When I come in, I daven, I shouldn't make an error. V'yitziasi ani noisen hayda al chalki. And when I leave, I thank Hashem. By the way, if you like these sheets, so if you ever heard some of the shiurim online, on Torah Anytime, on Kol Lashain, so these sheets are available. If you would like to receive them via email, please see my good friend Rabbi Aaron Subar, who's been sending these sheets out now for many, many years. And also, if you want to get recordings of the Daf HaShavua Shiur, see Rabbi Aaron, and he'll connect you. He'll hook you up with the shiurim as well. We thank Rabbi Aaron for his Harbatzas Torah, for helping me out for so many years. Okay, so Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana would say a special tefillah when he entered the show. What's the tefillah? Everybody knows. You open up the Gemara, and the cover page of the Gemara, you have the tefillah of Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. You know, in all the maduros of any Gemara that you have, all the new Gemaras, Oiz v'Hadar, Mesifta, Mahadura, Shatenstein even, you have the tefillah of Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. So I was just wondering, I remember from my yeshiva days, if you looked around the Beis Medrash, so a lot of guys, you know, when they came in, they would open up the cover page and they would say the tefillah of Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. But if you go into a regular shul, how many people are saying the tefillah of Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana? I mean, don't raise your hand, you know, don't. But are people saying the tefillah of Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana? The Gemara says that all the Gemara says is Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana would say this tefillah. Okay, so I would think good for him. I have to do everything Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana did. He was a big mekubal. Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana wrote the Sefer HaKaneh. So, you know, he said it, but maybe that has nothing to do with it. So, Otaka, I say it when I make a siyam, every 70 years when I make a siyam, I say the tefillah of Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. And yet, if you look in the Rambam in the Parsha Mishnayos says, Ratzol loymar, k'sheyikanes l'beis hamedrash, ma chayiv loymar. The Rambam learns this tefillah is not a discretionary, it's an obligatory tefillah. So okay, it's the Rambam. The Rambam doesn't say that in the Yad HaChazaka. He says that in the Parsha Mishnayos. But you look in the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch is matik halacha l'maisa. That when you go into a beis medrash, you have to say the tefillah. Hanichnas the beis medrash yispalel yiratzei mofanecha Hashem Elokeinu v'Elokei Avoseinu. And the Shulchan Aruch brings down the whole nusach hatefillah of Reb Nechunya ben Hakanah. So you say, that's only for like big Talmidei Chachamim, big Gedolim, big Rosh Yeshiva, Matikei Hashmua, the ones giving over the Messiah to Klal Yisrael. But does every individual really need to say the Tefillah of Reb Nechunya ben Hakanah? Says the Taz, Nirali, not only Hanichnas Beis HaMedrash, Du Adin Nami, Sheyashav Lilmoid Afilu B'Yechidus. Anytime you learn ever, you need to say the Tefillah of Reb Nechunya ben Hakanah. Who says? Shulchan Aruch. So who says it? Why aren't people saying it? Unless I'm missing something, I don't even think 5% of people are saying the Tefillah of Reb Nechunya ben Hakanah. Yeah, maybe back in yeshiva when you're 19 years, you have nothing else on your head other than learning. So you have 24 hours. What else are you going to do? So you say the Tefillah of Reb Nechunya ben Hakanah. But how come nobody's saying it? So basically, we have three approaches. What happened to the tefillah of Reb Nechunya ben Hakanah? If you look in the Aruch HaShulchan, in Siman Kuf Yud, Sivkatan Tazai, number 8 on your sheets, the Aruch HaShulchan makes this observation: Ve'achshav lo nohagu bazeh. Nowadays, we're not noyig to say the tefillah. People aren't saying it. Meaning, the Aruch HaShulchan observes the fact that the reality is people are not saying the tefillah of Reb Nechunya ben Hakanah. Aruch HaShulchan doesn't quite know why, but he offers the following conjecture: V'nira Mishum da'achshav haloimdim bebeis hamedrash eina moirim hayrais v'harav hamoira yoshev bebeisai. He says Mimanav Shach. Who's the tefillah for? Somebody who is poisek halachos sitting in the beis hamedrash. It's not nageya. The people sitting in the beis hamedrash are learning Gemara, Rashi, Tosfos, the Rashba, and the Rambam. Reb Chaim's Chakira, what's Pshat in the Machlekes, the Rambam and the Rashba. It's not Nogea B'chlal L'maisa. It's not Halacha L'maisa. It's just Lamdus. So if you're learning for the Lamdus, you don't say it. The only time you say it is if you're a Poisek. The Poiskim are not in the base medrash because people would harass them. They're learning at home. So Mimanav Shach, nobody has to say it. Sai the Loimdim in the base medrash who are not learning Halacha L'maisa, and Sai the Poiskim who are not in the base medrash. That's the Aruch HaShulchan's explanation for why the reality seems to be that people are not saying the tefillah of Reb Nechunya ben Hakanah. Then you have the Ritva. The Ritva argues on the Rambam. The Ritva learns that the tefillah of Reb Nechunya ben Hakanah is only a reshus, that b'chlal there's no chiyuv to say it. It's a discretionary tefillah. Look at number 9. He says, Reb Nechunya ben Hakanah hayim mispalel aidi da'ayri me'inyan tefillah I see high tefillah hacha la'ashmeinon demi sharoitze loimer hachi yarishus biyad. If you want to say it, you could say it. You say, what? That's what the Gemara is saying? That if you want to say it, you could say it? Why would I think you can't say it? Oh, very simple. Imagine, the Rosh Yeshiva is giving Shiur, and you have one guy sitting in the Shiur. What's he doing? He's reading the Aneni book. So, Chacham from the Manashtana, it's Shiur now. Why are you saying Tfilos Ubakashas that were written by, we don't even know who they wrote. It's learning now. No, I have to be mispalel. You're blowing the whole Shiur, you're missing the whole Shiur. So I would think you shouldn't say the Tefillah of Nechunya ben Hakanah. Better to learn than to say it. The Chiddush is you're allowed to say it. You don't have to say it. That's how the Ritva learns. There's a third approach of Hagois Re'em Horowitz. In the back of the Gemara, you have microscopic Hagois. It's called Hagois Re'em Horowitz. See, on the Gemara in Brachos, Yud Aleph Al Mabez, Yud Aleph Al Manav, going on to Yud Aleph Al Mabez, the Gemara talks about Ahava Rabba Avas Olam. And the Hagois Re'em Horowitz makes note of the fact that in his mind, the Tefillah of Ahava Rabba is mighty similar to the Tefillah of Reb Nechunya ben Hakanah. What are you davening for in Ahava Rabba? By the way, of any Tefillah we say the entire day, the one that is the most impassionate tefillah, the one that we ask for the most rachamim. If we wouldn't know better, imagine Avinu of harachamon, hamirachem rachim aleinu. We say, merciful Father, who has mercy, have mercy on us. What are we about to ask for? You think we're about to ask, there's somebody dying in a desert somewhere, give him food, give him clothing. We're asking for ourselves. Help us understand the Torah. It's amazing, ha'ara. The most impassionate plea that we daven in the entire Siddur is Ahava Rabba, Ahava Solam. Avinu of Harachamon, Hamerachim, Rachim. There's not one bracha in Shemoneh Esrei that we say Avinu of Harachamon. Maybe in Nusach Sfard and Shema Koeleinu. But Nusach Ashna, we don't call the Avinu of Harachamon in the Shemoneh Esrei. There's nothing we ask for with such an impassionate tefillah. So says the Hagos Reim Parts, that's mightily similar to the tefillah of Nechuni ben Akana. And then Avas Oilam that we say at night is very similar to the tefillah that he would say B'Yitziyasai. Says Hagos Reim Horowitz that in my mind, Bazeh anu niftarim mitfilas from Nechuni ben Akana. That lahalacha, Ahava Rabba and Ahava Solam exempts you from the tefillas from Nechuni ben Akana. Nechuni ben Akana was before the exact nusach was formulated. But now that the nusach HaTefillah is formulated, that exempt. You want to say it, you're allowed to say it. It's a beautiful thing, no question. It's a nice thing to say. But to say that you're obligated in it, the suggestion of Hagos Reim Horowitz is that we exempt ourselves through Birchas Kriya Shema.
Why do rabbis say that we have to say it?
Exactly. Yeah, apparently this is not working with the Rambam Parsha Mishnayos. Be it as it may, in the Archas Rabbeinu he brings down from the Rechaz Oynush that if you want to be matzliach in your learning, you should say the tefillah. Now my point here is not to tell people, you want to be matzliach? Say the tefillah from Nechuni ben Akana. That, look through the sugya and you'll come out how you think you should come out. The nekuda is like this. If your person wants to be matzliach in learning, tefillah is a very critical ingredient. Whether it's this tefillah, whether it's Ahava Rabba, whether it's in the Shemoneh Esrei, whether it's all day long and you're walking down the street, you say, Ribbon Shalom, help me understand better, help me remember better, help the Torah become a part of me, help it course through my veins. In other words, we don't just want the Torah to be in our head. We want it to become part of our personality. We want it to be flowing through our veins. And you need siyata d'shmaya for that. And for siyata d'shmaya, a person needs tefillah. So that's step number one. No chidushim over here. Everybody knows this, but it's kedai to remember that the critical ingredient in hatzlacha, in learning, is tefillah, tefillah, tefillah. And throughout the davening, there are many, many opportunities for that. Birchas HaTorah, Ava, Rabba, tefillas from Nechuni ben Akana. Okay. Number two. So there's a father. The father has a lot of money. He has a bunch of boys. He has a bunch of kids. He wants to give his kids money. He's going to give his children money. Which child is going to get the most money? So he says, I don't know, the one that's the oldest, the one that has the most kids, the one that has the biggest needs. No, that's usually not the first criteria in determining who the father is going to give the money to. You have two boys come to the father, Tati, I need money. So the father says, where are you going to put the money? So the first kid says, where are you going to put the money? Right now I'm going to put it in my wallet. When I get back home, I'm going to put it in a safe deposit box. I'm going to lock it. Behind that, I'm going to have two guards guarding the money, and believe me, it's all taken care of. The other kid, what are you going to do with the money? What am I going to do with the money? I'm going to hold it like this while I walk down the street. So who's going to get more money? The first criteria that the father will use to determine who the money should go to is who has the safest pockets. Who's the most responsible with the money? Father's not going to give the money to a kid. What are you going to do with the money? What am I going to do with the money? I'm going to put it away to make chasanas for my kids. Oh, and what are you going to do with the money? I don't know. Blackjack? I'm going to blow it. That's what I'm going to do. So he's not going to get any money. Says the Nefesh HaChaim in Shar Daled, Parak Daled. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yadoi Psucha Lahashpia Tamid L'chol Ish Meyam Skulasai, the bottom paragraph, number 15, Roiv Chachma Ubina Yisera. The Ribbon Shalom's hands are open to be mashpia on every yid, an abundance of chachma, an abundance of bina. It should stay with them. It should be tied on their heart so that a yid could go up to Shamayim with a lot of Torah. The only thing is, you need pockets, you need a storehouse, you need a safe deposit box. Says the Rabbi, I want to give you Torah, I can give you Torah, I will give you Torah, provided that I could trust you, that you're going to keep it safe, that you have an oitzar. And what's the oitzar? What's the wallet? What's the safe deposit box? Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim. No chidushim over here. The Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Lamed Aleph. V'hoisa emunas yitecha, choisa nishua, ischachma badas. Zroem, moyed, nashim, nazikin, kodshim, tarais. There are 6 parts of the Torah. Va'afilu hachi, iyiras, shamayim, hiyoid sarai. Good, otherwise forget it. Eloi loi. The Yerushalayim is the salt that preserves all of the goods, all of the ingredients. The Rebbeinu Shalom is looking to be mashpia Torah on the Yid, provided that the Yid has a place to put it. You have to have an oitzar, you have to have a wallet, you have to have a safe deposit box. And the safe deposit box is Yerushalayim. I read to you again, if you look in the Nefesh HaChaim. Ulefi erech goydel oitzer hayira asher heicheloi keinazeh ha'erech yuchal likones uleshtamer uleskayim tfues haTorah. Imagine you tell somebody, the guy says, I can't understand the Gemara, it's just not going in. You know why it's not going in? Because you're not biyira, you're not learning biyira shamayim, you're lacking yira shamayim. What? You lost it? Are you crazy? What does yira shamayim have to do with Torah? Now, if you told somebody he's not chapping trigonometry, why? Because he's not learning it with Yiras Shamayim. What does one thing have to do with the other? It's an intellectual discipline. Why would Yiras Shamayim affect one's ability to understand the Black Gemara? And yet the Gemara, the Nefesh HaChaim is teaching us from the Gemara that the ingredient necessary for a person for Torah to be meskayim in his mind, in his leiv, in his mayach, is Yiras Shamayim. Otherwise, there's nowhere to put it. Says the Nefesh HaChaim, Hadavar taloi lefi oitzer hayira shetikdam el adam. That if you have a big oitzar, you can have a lot of Torah. And if you have a little oitzar, then only a little bit of Torah fits. Now don't make the mistake, says the Nefesh HaChaim, that learning Torah, that while you're learning, it's some kind of like heebie-jeebie, supernatural process that you go, you close your eyes, you roll the pupil of your eye to the back of your head, and you go like that. No, none of that is going on while you're learning. While you're learning, you're studying, you're analyzing. It's an intellectual process. However, says the Nefesh HaChaim, before you begin, you have a minute, you have 2 minutes, you have 90 seconds, while they're setting up, while the Rebbe's getting things together. Says the Nefesh HaChaim, Roi loy lehisyashev koidem sheyaschel zman muat. Take the time, collect your thoughts, focus biyiras Hashem tahira, bitaras halev, be mizvada on your chatoim, so that the Torah that you're about to learn, you can learn b'kedusha v'tara. Once you start learning, it's not a devekus like tefillah. You have to harv, you need amelos, you need to think, you need to sweat. Our Rosh Hashiva used to say, the chidush doesn't come until the beads of sweat appear on your forehead. I don't understand it, no kidding, because you're leaning back. You need to lean forward. I'm thirsty, good, now you have a shot at it. I'm tired, I'm thirsty, I have a headache, gavaldik. Now maybe you'll understand it. You have to plug away. But before you start to learn, realize that a little Yiras Shamayim is needed. This is a central ingredient in Hatzlacha and learning. Number 3. There's a Mishnah. I'm going to tell you a Mishnah. Maybe you never heard this Mishnah before. Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. Very good. Yeah, Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. The only thing is there's a mistake here. Moshe received the Torah from Sinai? Really? I didn't know that. So Sinai grew arms and grew a head, and Sinai said, Moshe, here's the Torah. What do you mean Moshe kibel Torah misinai? It's wrong. You should say Moshe kibel Torah be Sinai, ba Sinai, al Sinai, not me Sinai. Sinai never gave Moshe Rabbeinu the Torah. I don't like that question. It's Tosfos' question, okay? So too bad. The Moshe kibel Torah should say be Sinai. Says Tosfos, says Tiferes Yisrael, sometimes the ois mem is lashon of machmas, because of. Moshe kibel Torah machmas Sinai. Moshe was makabel the Torah because of Har Sinai. Meaning, Moshe realized that why did the Rebbeinu Shalom choose Har Sinai? The Gemara says in Megillah, because the Rebbeinu Shalom rejected all the mountains that were Balei Mumin, that were Balei Gaiva, and the Rebbeinu Shalom said, I'm going to be Shoich in the Shechina on the lowest point. So Moshe said, aha, so I see the Rebbeinu Shalom likes humility, Hashem likes anivus. So Moshe learned the midah of anivus from Har Sinai, and therefore Moshe Rabbeinu was chosen to be the one to be Makabel the Torah. Moshe kibel Torah because of Har Sinai. Again says the Nefesh HaChaim in the Ruach HaChaim, Dvarim Nefloim Ad Ma'oid. Says the Nefesh HaChaim, every madriga of Torah that Moshe achieved was only because of his anivos. Every understanding, every daher, every tosfos, every subject was only because of Moshe's humility. It's not that Moshe was also an anav. It's a good thing Moshe Rabbeinu was also an anav. That's another quality Moshe Rabbeinu happened to have. It says the Nefesh HaChaim, Al Yedei Ha'anava Zoicha Ha'adam HaKoil Uchamay Moshe Ha'adoin HaNavim Av HaChachamim Lo Nishtabeach Elo Ba'anava Kol Ma Shezocha Ba'avur Anvosai. Everything about Moshe Rabbeinu was his humility. Now listen to this. This is Oyem V'Noira. If today, Tafshin Ayin Tes, there was someone who was an Anav like Moshe Rabbeinu, they would be Adoin HaNeviim like Moshe Rabbeinu. You know why it's impossible to be like Moshe? Not you can't be a Chacham like Moshe. Not you can't be a Navi like Moshe. It's because you can't be an Anav like Moshe. But Ilu Haya Achshav Adam Anav Ke Moshe Vaday Zoiche LeTorah B'Shleimos. Varam Neflam. I say, teacher, I don't understand the physics. It's because you're machshav yourself. If you would think that you're offer ve'efer, you'd understand it better. Meshugana, what's he talking about? It's not true. It's not true. You could be a Baal Gaiva and understand every single thing in this world, but not Torah. Why not? What does understanding Torah have to do with humility? Because Torah is not a regular chachma. It's not seichel ha'anushi, it's lamala min ha'seichel. The ingredients, therefore, needed to understand Torah are lamala min ha'seichel, lamala min ha'teva. The more a person works on their gaiva, the more a person could be kind of the midah ha'anivos. To that extent, they'll be successful in limud Torah. Okay, number 4. Number 4 is like this. Number 4 is a hard one. People don't like this one anymore. So the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, Aseh lecha Rav. Make for yourself a Rebbe. What do I need a Rebbe for? I don't need a Rebbe. Madura Shadenstein. I have Oiz V'Hadar. I have Torah tapes, Torah anytime, Kol HaLashon. I don't need a Rebbe. What do we need? What's the Rebbe going to do for me? I read the Gemara, I have translations, I have explanations. What is the Rebbe going to do for me? Listen carefully to the words of Rabbeinu Yonah. Says Rabbeinu Yonah, it doesn't matter if the Rebbe is greater than you, the Rebbe could be less than you. You have to have a Rebbe. Why? Because you will remember what you learn better, what you hear from a Rebbe, than what you learn on your own. As smart as you are, as as sharp as your grasp is, as intelligent as you might be, you will not remember what you learn as well if you hear from a Rebbe as if you learn it on your own. Well, let's explain this better. If Torah was just information, so I learned the information, why do I need it to hear it from a Rebbe? The answer is, the goal here is not that the information should go into my head. If that's all the goal was, then you take a USB cord, take it from the Oitzer HaChachma, stick it into your head, and it will go into your head. That's it. The point is not to get the information into your brain. The point is that the Torah is coursing through your blood, that you want it to become part of your personality. So the thing is, we're not computers. If we were computers, then you could just read it from a book, you could read it from a text. But we're not computers, we're human beings. And human beings are affected by relationships. We wanted the Torah to get into our emotions. We want it to get into our personality. Therefore, you have to have a kesher with another basar v'adam. The Rebbe doesn't have to be greater than you. You know, when Rabbi Sol Salanter passed away, Rabbi Itzla Petterberg and Rabbi Naftali Amsterdam, they came to Shmuel Salant. They said, "You're our Rebbe." I said, "No, but you're older than us. You're older than me," Rabbi Shmuel Salant said. "Rabbi Itzla, I'm your Rebbe. Rabbi Itzla, you're older than me." Rabbi Itzla said, "A Yid, doesn't matter how old they are, always has to have a Rebbe. What you learn from a Rebbe, you remember 100 years more, 1,000 times deeper. It will penetrate your personality much more than you've just learned from Svarim." Asay l'charav, that's a very important inyan in Limanat Torah. If you want the Torah to get into your kishkas, if you want it to become part of you, you need to have a Rebbe. But I'm the Gadol Hadar already. I know you're the Gadol Hadar. That's why we're talking to you. You, the Gadol Hadar, who are greater than every person in this world. Find someone less than you, and asay l'charav. Why does it have to say asay l'charav? Make him your Rebbe. He is your Rebbe. No. Because he's less than you. He doesn't deserve to be your Rebbe. Your achrayus is you make him into your Rebbe. And if you make him into your Rebbe, it will have a hashpah on you. It doesn't matter what level you're on. Number 5. Here's a big chiddush from the Shulchan Aruch Harav. Shulchan Aruch Harav has a very big chiddush. I don't think it's the halacha, but the yesod is very important. Shulchan Aruch paskins that if when you're learning, you have the ability to say the words, and instead of saying the words, you just think it in your mind. Ready? So you're learning a black Gemara. So you're learning in your head, Amar Abaye, but you're not actually saying the words. Shulchan Aruch Harav paskins, lo yatsa. You don't get any credit for learning. You hear this? Shulchan Aruch Harav writes in Hilchos Talmud Torah, Kol Adam tzarich lizaher, number 25. Lahoitzi b'svasav ulahashmiya la'oznav kamash shaloi made. You need to pronounce the words. Bein b'mikra, bein b'mishnah, bein b'talmud. Unless you're learning b'iyyan, unless you're harving on a toisus and you're trying to think about the svara and saying it out is going to disturb you, it's going to distract you, you must say the words. He says v'chamash shaloi made behirhur ve'efshar lahoitzi b'svasav einoi yoitze b'limud zeh yedei chayvas mitzvah. That's the psak of the Shulchan Aruch Harav. So you say, well, so what am I doing here for the last hour? I'm just blowing my time here. I'm not doing anything. No! When you go to a shiur, you're yotzei midin shoymei koine, says the Shulchan Aruch Harav. So, so that means if I'm learning b'chavrusa, I'm going to be saying now. For how long? Forever. You're not going to be saying anything, because I want to get the... No, you could let your chavrusa say midin shoymei koine. Rav Shlomo Zalman argues on the Shulchan Aruch Harav. Rav Shlomo Zalman says that's a very big chiddush. You're not yotzei the mitzvah of Talmud Torah unless you say the words. No, the pshat is when my chavrusa says it, it's not that I'm yotzei midim shemei koina. That's the tzura of learning that sometimes I say, sometimes he says. It's not that I have to be yotzei with his amira. Says Rav Shlomo Zalman, avada yotzei the mitzvah of Talmud Torah if you don't actually pronounce the words. But we see a very important yesod, and the yesod is it's very important to say the words when you learn. In fact, it's a Gemara that Bruria, the wife of Rameir, once saw a Talmud who was just learning quietly. So what did she do? She kicked him. Of course, that's what you do to people who learn silently. You kick them in the shin where it hurts. And he said, "What do you huh?" And she said, that's right. The pasuk says, Arucha bakoil ushmura, which we darshan. If the learning is with all 248 limbs, you'll remember it. Otherwise, you're going to forget it. And there was a Talmud who learned for 3 years, and he forgot everything he learned because he didn't say the words. So Marsha says, what in the world does that mean? That when you learn with all your 248 limbs, you'll remember your learning? It should say, when you learn with your mouth, you will remember your learning. How by learning with your mouth are you learning with all 248 limbs? It says in Marsha, very interesting Marsha, that when you say the words, it causes vibrations in your body, and your entire body vibrates. So it's keilu you learned with all ramach ivarim, says the Marsha. So if you learn with your entire being, then your whole being will remember the learning. In fact, lahalacha and Shulchan Aruch, look at number 26, kol hamashmiya koiloi b'shas talmudai miskayim b'yad. It's halacha and Shulchan Aruch, not just a musar. It's halacha and Shulchan Aruch. If you say the words, you'll remember it. Abba hakari b'lachash b'mheruhu shoicheach. It's a Masorah. And the Marsha explains, because you're learning with all Ramach Evarim. Here's a good one. It says in Perkei Avos, Kenei l'cha chaver. Kenei l'cha chaver, buy a friend. So one of my Rabbeim, Rav Noach Isaac Obam Shlita, he has in his Hakdama to Gilyoinei Minchas Chein, there's a vart on Kenei l'cha chaver. Kenei could also be a pen, like a reed. You know who your friend should be? Kinei, your pen, l'cha chaver, should be your friend. Your pen should be your best friend. You want to be successful in learning? Write it down, okay? I'll give you a mashal, but I'm just going to take a short break. I happen to know what the winning lottery numbers are going to be for tomorrow's lottery, okay? So you ready? I'm just going to tell you. So also, everyone's going to take down and write it down. Why? You remember? No, just in case you'll forget. Something that's important, you write it down. Something that's not important. How many times I say to myself, and I'm a Maggid Shiur, right? So whenever I hear something, I want to remember I could use it. How many times, 3 months later, he said such a gewaldik word. But what was it, right? I wish I would have wrote it down. And then when I was smart enough to write it down, and I look back a few months later, it's a good thing I wrote this down. So the Marsha writes on the Gemara Bava Basra, Ashrei mi sheba lekan v'talmudai biyadai. Fortunate is someone who goes upstairs with his learning in his hand, says the Marsha. Fortunate is somebody who could say that he wrote over his learning, says the Marsha. Iker halimud v'shenas roishim hu halimud haba miksivas yad. A learning that will impact you more than anything is learning you write over. You want to remember something, you want the learning not just to be in your head, but to be coursing through your system, that it should become part of you. Write it over. Write it over. It will change your life. Write over. You go to a shiur, write over 2 sentences. Better than nothing. Write it over. Number 7, turn off your phone. Turn off your phone. If your phone is on while you're learning, I'm not saying that it's not worthwhile to learn. I am. Actually, I am. No, just joking. If your phone is on, you're blowing it. If you could learn for 1 minute, then learn for 1 minute with your phone off. If you can learn for 2 minutes, learn for 2 minutes with your phone off. We know the famous Yisai. Rabbi Akiva learned for 12 years. He came back, he heard the Rasha talking to his wife. The Rasha said to his wife, what are you, Meshugana? You married a bench warmer? You married a Kailo guy? He left you an Almana Chaya? So she said, if he would listen to me, he would go back for another 12 years. And that's what he did. So Chaim Shmulevitz asks, it would have been very nice for Rabbi Akiva to go to his wife and say, how you doing? Thank you so much for the last 12 years. I really appreciate it. By the way, where was our kid's bar mitzvah last week? Who was the caterer? How did it go? How did he lane? What did the Rebbe say at PTA Tuesday night? Why didn't Rabbi Akiva at least go to his wife and say, I really appreciate the last 12 years? Says Chaim Shmulevitz, because Rabbi Akiva knew that 12 plus 12 does not equal 24. What do you mean? What's wrong with my phone out? I learned 2 minutes, and I look at my phone and I learned another 2 minutes, so I learned 4 minutes. You didn't learn nothing. You didn't learn. You can't be mafsik in the middle of your learning. If you're able to learn for 5 minutes, put the phone on silent, not vibrate, and you'll check it after. Nobody's calling you that you want to. They want your money. They want you to pay bills. It's yeshiva calling for tuition. What do you think? They're calling to tell you won the lottery? People have chaloimos who's calling. What, you think Trump is calling to ask your advice? Whoever is calling, I guarantee you don't even want to speak to. It's mamish kula yitzhar. Turn off the phone. Otherwise, your learning is pisky. The Gemara Chagiga says, "Kol hapoisik midivrei Torah, v'oisik midivrei sicha." It ain't good. I don't even want to say. You can't be mafsik in the learning. Just turn off the phone. You want to be matzliach in learning, it has to be consecutive. It can't be with breaks. You need a break. You're entitled to take a break. But if you keep your phone on, the Yetzer Hara is going to be having you taking breaks every 0.03 seconds. Ritzifos, consistency, consecutive. Don't break it up. Number 8. Number 8 is Parsha. I mean, we all know number 8. We know all of them. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. So yeah, I'm very into learning. I love learning, so I'm going to sit back, put my feet up, sip lemonade, and lie back in a hammock. And I'm going to be matzliach in my learning. You got to schwitz a little bit. You got to work hard in learning. And with all the tools that are at our disposal, even if you use an English Gemara, even if you use an art scroll, there's still makom for amelos. With all the tools, and with all the easy ways, and with all the shortcuts, there's makom for amelos in learning. And there's nothing wrong with amelos. Nothing's going to happen to you. You could still do amelos in 2018. This is a critical ingredient. We all know im yagat. If a person says, "La yagati umatzasi al tamen," yeah, somebody says, "I didn't put in the work, and then I chapped it." You didn't chap it. It didn't work. It ain't going to go. Without amelos, it doesn't work. You need amelos. Number 9. This is a very big chadash. The guy said, "I mamish don't understand. I learned the Gemara 3 times, and I don't understand my learning. It's not going." It's Yadua, the Stipler writes, from the Gemara in Eruvin, the Gemara says, Ketzad Seder HaMishnah, that Moshe came in, Moshe learned the Torah mipi HaGvura. He taught it to Aaron, he taught it to Bnei Aaron, he taught it to the Zakenim, he taught it to Klal Yisrael. Then Moshe steps out, Aaron teaches it to his sons, to the Zakenim, to the Bnei Yisrael. Aaron steps out, the Bnei Aaron teaches the Zakenim, and then to Klal Yisrael, turns out everybody learns the Torah 4 times. Says the Stipler. He goes, I learned and I chazered. Really? How many times did you learn it so far? I learned it twice. You didn't learn it yet. It's not considered learning. You didn't learn it until you learned it 4 times. Says the Stipler, until you learn a piece of Gemara 4 times, you didn't learn it yet. The din of limud is 4 times. Chazara is the 5th time. I don't have a head for learning. Imagine you have a guy, he's sitting there with the Gemara upside down. He's reading the back. He's reading the sponsors of the Gemara. I don't understand the Gemara. It's too hard for me. Pal, first open up to Daf Beis. You have to be looking at the page. You have to be looking at the Gemara. Maybe you'll have a shot of understanding the Gemara if you're looking at the Gemara itself. The guy's staring at the blank page before Daf Beis. I don't chap Gemara. It's not for me. Of course, until you can't even say you don't understand Gemara until you learned it 5 times. So Rav Miller used to say, Gemara is like eating bread. In America, people don't chew their food. They swallow. They don't have time. People don't have time. They're so busy looking at their phone, they don't have time to eat the food. So they have a piece of steak, and they take it like they've been taking Tylenol. They swallow it whole. People don't eat. You have to chew your food. The more you chew the bread, the sweeter it becomes. The saliva acts on the starches, and it makes it sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. The more you say over the Gemara, again and again and again and again, it becomes sweeter. The more you chew it, the more you review it, it becomes sweeter and sweeter. The Gemara says, Eino doime mi sheshayna perkai Mea pamim l'mea v'achas. Really? Einoi doime? Why einoi doime? I think they're pretty similar. 100 is very similar to 101. You want to say eino doime eser pa'amim l'mea pa'amim? Fine. But eino doime 100 to 101? In the Keser Rosh, in the Ma'aser Rav, there's a Parish on the Keser Rosh. He says an incredible thing. When I chazer the second time, how many more? So here you have a guy, he learned it one time, and then someone else who learned it 2 times. How many more times did the guy who learned it 2 times learn it than the guy who learned it once? So say 1 time, right? No, he learned it 2 more times. How's that? So says the Gaon, when you learn it the second time, you're learning it the second time, and as you're learning the second time, you're remembering the first time you learned it. So you've now learned it 2 more times. When you now learn it the third time you're learning it 3 more times. Why? I'm learning it the third time. I'm remembering the second time, which has in it the first time, 4 more times, and I'm remembering it the first time. So the third time is another 4 times. And the fourth time is like 6 more times. By the time I get up to 101 is like 1,000,000 more times than 100. Because each time, it's not just another time. You're remembering the previous times, which has incorporated in it the remembering of the times before that. It's like, some kind of mathematical permutation. 101 is actually like 1,000,000 more times than 100. I don't know what the exact formula is.
Factorial.
The fact.
It's a crazy number.
More than 1,000,000. Good. It's good audience. Okay, very good. Number 9, the more we chazer, the more we review, the sweeter it becomes, the more we remember it. Einoi doime, that 1 extra time. Okay. Last one. So there's a big machlokes, Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chanina said if the Torah would ever be forgotten, I would return the Torah through my pilpul. Rabbi Chia said I would make sure the Torah would never be forgotten. I would take 5 boys, teach each one of the 5 books of the Torah, take 6 boys, teach each one of the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, and then I say, Yankel, teach the other 4, teach the other 6 boys Bereshis. So the Bereshis expert teaches everyone Bereshis, and the Shemais, he teaches everyone Shemais. And Vayikra, says the Marsha, why do you have to make things so complicated? Just teach everyone Bereshis, Shemais, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Devarim, and Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. Why did he have to make it that one of them is going to teach, not just learn Bereshis, he's going to be the teacher. He's going to be the Shemais is going to be the teacher. Says the Marsha, because if Rabbi Chia is just going to teach it to them, the Torah would be forgotten in Klal Yisrael. Until these boys reach the madrega of the highest level of Torah, what's the highest level of Torah? Teaching the Torah. The highest level of Lilmoid is Lilamed. Adam, blank, Yulad. Adam, La'amal, Yulad. The Marsha says, I believe in Sanhedrin, Adam, La'amal, Yulad. La'amal is Rashi Tevis, Lilmoid, Amanas, Lilamed. A person was created to learn, Amanas to give it over. Says the Marsha, the way the Torah would not be forgotten is that Reb Chia would teach the Torah to these boys, and then these boys would become Melamdim. You ever wonder, how is it possible in this generation? I'm going to learn it over 101 times. Halavai should learn it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. I'm going to learn it 101 times. So somebody once came to the Stipler. And he said, Stipler, I'm not sure I should become a Rabbi. I should teach these kids. I'm going to lose out on my learning. So the Stipler said, if you prepare a shiur, and you get it clear, and you say it over, that's akin to 50 times. That's equal to 50 times. Saying it over is like 50 times. So come on, you say it over twice, you're already up to Mea Pamim. Say, what do you want from me? I'm not a Rebbe, I'm not a Rosh Yeshiva, I'm not a Rav. If you hear a good Dvar Torah, you hear a good Vart, you hear a good Shiur, you say it over to somebody. Say it over at your Shabbos table. Say it over to your friend. Yeah, hold him hostage. Say it yeah, but he's not interested. He's not interested in anything you have to say anyway. He's not listening to you anyway. It's not for him. It's not that because he's interested. He doesn't care about anything. You think he cares about the other Zachin, you tell him. So at least tell him something important. It's for you. The more you say it over, the more you give it over. You can give it over to your family, you give it over to your wife, you give it over to your children, to your friend, anybody you want. Take out a tape recorder, record it. Whatever you want to do. You say something over, it's a special segula. That's the highest level of Limud Torah. Says the Marsha, if you look at number 50, Ada Asina Ikru V'asa Adadish Kol Echad Nasa Loimed Umelamed Shehu Maila Ha'Elyoina B'Torah. Okay, these are just a few suggestions. If we're zoicha to implement even one of them a little bit, we'll already be a head taller. And siyata d'shmaya, the Rebbe should give us all siyata d'shmaya in our limudenu and in everything we learn. We should be zoicha lahagdil Torah u'lahadira. Shkayach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.